Hello, heroes, and we are finally live with video and awesomeness. Welcome to Tamriel Unchained, an Elder Scrolls Online podcast bringing you all the news you will ever need, even if you are a filthy casual like Angwar. Every Wednesday, approximately 10:30-ish, it is a Game Breaker show after all. So this week we're going to be talking about patch 1.5 and all the awesomeness that came with it. We're also going to be talking about some of the crafting writs, our enchanters and provisioners getting the proverbial shaft, veteran players unable to actually progress due to an experience bug, forward camps being removed from Cyrodiil indefinitely, who knows? What else do we have? We have DC. Does anyone actually play on DC, or is the LFG tool completely broken? We don't know. It's horrible. I'll get into that more. This week, we also discussed community-driven topic. If we have fishing, can we also have painting? Which is actually a really fun topic to discuss, and I can't wait to get into that. So, all this on this episode of Tamriel Unchained, brought to you by Gamebreaker Deals. Stop paying retail price and head on over to gamebreaker.tv/deals and get yourself a discount code, mind you. So, we missed last week, and a lot has happened. Patch 1.5 has gone live. But before we get into that, let's find out what the other hosts have been doing for the last 2 weeks. So let's head on over to whoever is over here. I'm pretty sure it's Lumi. Yes.
Hi. Actually, my voice sounds a lot better than it did this morning, but I was actually away at a convention out in California. So I was out doing that, hanging out with a bunch of the people from Gamebreaker and stuff. We were all hanging out together there at I'll say at BlizzCon. Yeah, I know. I'm kind of a traitor. I was at BlizzCon, but I'm doing an Elder Scrolls Online podcast. Don't shoot me. I love both games. I love both companies. But yeah, we hanged out with a bunch of people there and stuff. Kind of lost my voice, but I'm back. Time for some fun. Back to you, Garbrock.
All right, so Lumi's an official traitor, and we no longer like him. What about you, Angwar? Please tell me you were at least doing something Elder Scrolls related in the last week.
Actually, the last 2 weeks, man, I've been trying to get all this paint out of my beard, and this shit will not come out.
And here, I just thought you were getting old.
Oh, damn it! That's what it is. Crap. No, I have played some Elder Scrolls, but I've been playing my alts because I'm not playing my vet yet.
And we'll get more into that later.
You don't trust the system?
So before we all go into that awesome rant that we're probably going to get into, let's take it back a little bit and talk about some of the fun additions to patch 1.5. So with patch 1.5, they introduced the crafting writs, your daily crafting routines. However, the enchanters and provisioners, I feel, are getting shafted. And I want to know if you guys feel the same way. So enchanters, when they go and get their daily writ, if they have to make a glyph and then they have to go and obtain or acquire some essence rune, whichever one it might be, if they don't have it in their banks, their chances of actually going out and finding that specific essence rune is very rare if you take into consideration how many essence runes there are, and the fact that it's not only essence runes out there. There's the potencies, there's the aspect runes. You have a very slim chance of actually acquiring that specific essence runes. And as for the provisioners, I don't know if it was a bug or a glitch, but when I got my provisioning writ, I was actually told to go and craft a recipe that I don't even have. So am I supposed to go out and farm this recipe and then make the item so I can complete my writ? I mean, to me, it feels like enchanters and provisioners are, like I said, getting that shaft. But I want to know what you guys think. So let's start off with the iconic ESO target audience of filthy casuals and go to Angwar.
Yeah, I mean, the enchanting issue, I would, okay, I can look around, and it probably won't take me too long to find that. But the issue with the provisioning, if you don't have the recipe, you're at mercy of the RNG, man. I mean, that would really, really blow. Haven't had that problem when I did my writ. I actually had the recipe, but I've been farming recipes like crazy, so I really haven't had a problem. But I can imagine if someone didn't have that recipe, and you'd be like, great, now I'm stuck at this writ and I can't complete. You'd have to basically what? I didn't even try it, but could you like delete the quest and try and get a new writ or something? If you have to wait, I don't know.
Well, when I was testing on the PTS, I can't actually speak from live because I haven't tested it yet. But for the for the provisioning ones, for each provisioning thing you do, you also get a recipe. So essentially, like the starting out kind of sucks for the level, but it progresses it forward as you go through it. So like as you get the first one, okay, maybe you don't have the quest, the recipe for that, but so you can go on the auction house, find it, but then you'll get a different recipe from there. At times it starts to double up, but it starts moving forward. At least that was my experience on the PTS. And then it must be a glitch still from PTS onto live, because when you're talking about Garbrock for the Essence runes, I actually had that happen to me on the PTS. But if I pulled it out of my bank and then put it back in, then pulled it out, it sometimes worked. And then sometimes if I put it into the guild bank and pulled it out, like it was kind of like you could get it to work, you just had to figure out which bank pulled out of at the time. Be like, okay, here, okay, pull here, okay, trade to you. Like one time I had to trade to somebody, then they'll trade it back. It's like, okay, I gotta find a way to get it to work. It's almost easier to actually go and find just like, especially if it's an aspect rune. Like, okay, I'm gonna go find an aspect rune or potency.
Yeah, as long as the item or the essence rune is in your bank and you pull it from there, you'll get the credit for it because it only says acquire it. So you could actually go to a guild store and buy it. But if you don't, I just feel the chances of actually obtaining that one, I think that the time investment just isn't worth it.
Well, for essence runes, I have like 40 of each one.
Well, yeah, but I mean, not everyone's going to have that storage. And I mean, I have that storage, but
yeah, if you haven't been working on enchanting in the first place, then yeah, you're not going to have
exactly. Now, Engwar, you mentioned something that never really crossed my mind. You said, well, what if you dropped it and just tried to get a new one? I was under the assumption, and this is just because of what I'm used to when I encounter dailies, is all dailies are the same. So whatever writ I get is probably the same writ you're going to get. Now, has anybody noticed anything different?
I haven't tested it. I don't know if we would get different writs or what. That would be an interesting.
I have noticed differences, at least again on the PTS, because I haven't had a chance to touch it on live. But I was like working with two other people on the PTS, and I was like, "Well, do you have?" I'm like, "Well, I have this one." They're like, "Well, I have this one." So
I do know that the writ you get though is going to be comparable to the zone that you're in, the level of crafting that you're at. So.
Yes, yeah. Like I have level 50 in my crafting, so I get all void steel and stuff like that. And my woodworking's all maple because it's not high enough. Now that I think about it, maybe it is completely random. That would fit. Kudos to Zos on that one. Maybe I will just abandon the provisioning writ and see if I can get one that I actually have.
Yeah, there you go.
Never thought about that. There's my ignorance. So, let's
elitist.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And where you mentioned earlier on the podcast, like early on the podcast we just started, that you're playing your alts now. That's strictly due to the fact that there's that whole veteran change to experience. Now, for anybody that doesn't know what's going on, Elder Scrolls Online is trying to slowly integrate the champion system, which is removal of the veteran system, removal of veteran points, and convert everything back to experience. However, right now, their removal of veteran points doesn't equate to the same amount of experience that you would have. Right now, you're getting about 40% per veteran zone, whereas before, when you finished a veteran zone, you got about a whole rank. So you're actually losing out on 60% of your experience. Now, is that solely why you're no longer playing your primary characters anymore?
Yes. Oh, you want me to elaborate? I've been reading up and down the forums. I know what Zos is saying, and I know they're saying, hey, yeah, no problem. Play your vets. We're keeping track of all the experience. We know it's a bug. It's going to come into the fix. 1.5.3 was supposed to fix it, but it didn't even come in with all of the fixes itself, and That's a whole nother podcast, I think. But I just don't trust the system. I'm just gonna wait. I'm gonna wait till they hash it out. I'm gonna wait. I've got alts to play. I'm not too stressed about it. You know what I'm saying? I am the casual player, so that's why I make alts. When bugs like this come up, I've got other things to do.
Was there also a thing on the forums, like, because I saw the comments about that, but I thought I also saw like a dev post about somebody was saying that like they hit the cap for the next veteran level and then it just stopped. Like they couldn't
Right.
actually get into the next level at all.
Yeah, no. What was happening is the cap I think was like 1.4 mil to get to the next veteran rank, and they were actually questing along, and they would get this thing come up. Hey, you've granted them to the next rank, but their rank up in the corner of the screen wouldn't change at all. And in fact, now they had 1.456 million XP, and 1.4 was all you needed to get to the next rank. So they were starting to stack up on more that they had than what they needed, and they came back in the forums and said, yeah, we know. And actually, from what I've read on the forums, they're supposed to fix that in a hot fix tomorrow morning. So we'll see what happens.
Cross your fingers.
Cross my fingers.
I'm just trying to find the post here. Jessica Folsom went to the forums and actually made a detailed post explaining what is kind of happening. And one of the primary things that they try to get across to the players is their intention isn't to prolong the leveling experience and make you feel like you're grinding. They want you to go in and have fun. And she actually says specifically that if you're no longer having fun, you're not going to come back and play the game. And that's not what they want. I mean, this is a subscription-based game. Obviously, they want everybody playing it. So just to give you a little bit of insight, this is exactly what they wanted. This is a quote from their post. While our intended goal is for it to take the average person 12 to 15 hours to gain a veteran rank. Our QA team regularly gains veteran ranks on live in 8 to 10 hours or less. We've also witnessed you, our players, beating that time quite often. So the 12 to 15 hour estimate is a baseline standard. Now, how do you guys feel about that? I mean, Angwar, you're a casual player. I'm a little bit more hardcore. It didn't take me anywhere near 12 to 15 hours of veteran rank. How do you guys feel about that as a standard? I mean, 12 to 15 hours per rank. Put that into comparison. If they want that to also be the champion system levels, do they want it to be 12 to 15 hours per champion system level? And when
I don't know. I think when you're that high up into the end game, I think that kind of sounds pretty fair if you ask me. I mean, even as a casual player, yeah, 12 hours of play for me would be like 2 days, 3 days, probably 4 maybe, depending on what's going on in my life. But yeah, I'm cool with that. I mean, you're getting into the highest ranks of the game. Why would it take me? It shouldn't take me 2 hours to go from level to level. That's what you do. From like 1 to 50, I can grind that fast, but not in the veteran ranks, soon to be champion ranks.
Well, that's one of the things when I first started out on my first character, Jean Valjean. It took me about 2 months to hit VR10 because I was playing casual and stuff. It's just especially those event ranks, they took a long time, but they were also very enjoyable. For my second character, I will admit, I beat the time frame because I did the Scorpion grind. I will admit, I joined the grind, and it was event rank an hour. It was just like, I was like, it was mostly I wanted to first check it out, but also it's like, I want to get my Nightblade Jim Moriarty up there fast. It's like,
yeah,
dang, this is fast.
Yeah, you get addicted. I admit.
Yeah, I did. I was just like,
that.
Crap, I'm not leaving. I'm like, I got the rest of the day off. I'm staying here.
It does. You get addicting. You're like, oh, what's all the hype? And you're like, holy crap, I just got another level. Holy crap, I just got another level.
And you get like so much. I think it was more if you get so much loot from it as well.
So that being said, you said it yourself, Angor. You get addicted. Now, the 12 to 15 hours, you don't get that addiction. You just, like you said, it takes 2 to 3 days for you to do it. Do you really see yourself logging in and be like, you know what, I'm not really going to progress that much further if I play today? Like,
oh, sure. I mean, even if it's going to take, let's say 12 hours, it takes me 12 hours to go from VR 2 to 3. Okay, in 12 hours, let's cut that up. 3 hours of play, I have seen my XP bar move a quarter, 25%. That's worth my investment. That's worth my time. I'm not worried about that. There's a lot of other stuff I could be doing if I wanted to fill my time up with other stuff like crafting and all of that other stuff. Or usually PvP, you know, your XP bar ain't going to move hardly anything probably, but that's why you're doing PvP. No, I think it's worth my time. I'm not one of those that wants to rush and get to the end game and content as fast as I can, you know.
Well, you should be. You'd make more sense to me.
Why? Why? What is the purpose? Why would I want to burn myself out in this game in 6 months?
But that's what we're supposed to do with every game is burnout.
No, you can sit around, twiddle your thumbs, going, how come they're not giving me end-game content? Oh, this game sucks now. Oh, what happens? How come you're not catering to us, you know, high-level, you know, end-game folks? Well,
come on, isn't that what you're supposed to do? Is first day hit level VR10 and be like, there's nothing here to do. There's nobody to group with. What the fuck?
No, man. It took what game was it? I think it was Lord of the Rings. It took me 1 year to get max level.
All right, so
I actually never rate max level in Lord of the Rings.
Since we're on this topic, I'm gonna poke some buttons here. The Elder Scrolls Online is a very, very story-driven game. I mean, it's probably one of the biggest ones next to, say, SWTOR. How is it that you can play an alt and experience that exact same storyline multiple times? Like, do you find that engaging, or would you rather focus on one character, push up to max level, and then experience the end game content?
All of that I use on my main. My main is the one that listens to the conversations. My main is the one that I immerse myself in the game with. My alts, I don't. It's strictly space to have to do that. Once I've seen the story and gone through the story once, no, I'm not going to painfully indulge myself to do it again. But I do have one character, and usually my main character is going to be that one character that's going to take forever to get to max level because I'm enjoying the story, immersing myself in. They have some great voice acting in this game. Why would you want to just blow that away to get to end game just to see what your build can do? I just think that's so silly.
I'm going to ask a question here for you guys that just came to my head. You know how in SWTOR, one of the reasons why it's so playable over and over is because there's so many variations of the storyline, and a lot of the things you do affects the story. That's one of the things that's been lacking, I will say, in SO is, okay, you change, like you make a different decision in some of the quests. It doesn't really affect too many of the overarching things.
Well, it never did in SWTOR either.
Well, along your main story.
I feel bad for cutting you off, but no matter what decision you make in SWTOR, nothing.
I guess I was thinking more of the class storylines, yeah. Which the class storylines, some of the class storylines really affected the different things. But do you think maybe at some point, eventually in the future, they'll make like some of the decisions you make more impactful? Because that's one of the things is I had the same thing as Angmar. I spacebar after I went through and listened to everything the first time. I basically spacebar through everything now as well. I just go like, oh, I already know that most of the story. If I remember that there is a decision, I may slow down for a bit to see maybe the different decision, and then I'll start spacebarring again.
Well, I think because of the individual class stories that SWTOR did, does make making an alt easier for you to do. So, because you want to experience that individual class story that you're that particular character or alt is going through. What they did here is now you have your own alliance story. So you can take one character and literally go through each different alliance story. So that's I guess I can kind of see the pros and cons of having an individualized personal story like SWTOR does, but I do like what they do in ESO because you only need one character to experience the whole game story content wise, and you can create your alts if you want an alt. Really, because if you like the class that you are, you really don't need to make an alt unless you need storage, like me.
Yeah. I was completely on Lumi's side.
Wait, you were?
Well,
you finally agreed with me on something?
Prior to the Guild Summit. When I was at the Guild Summit, I actually talked to Lawrence and I said, you know what, this game has really great decisions, but your decisions don't change the way you play or doesn't change the outcome of the game. And he was like, well, what do you mean? And I used a specific example, and anybody who's played Daggerfall Covenant, there's a quest line, I'm not going to spoil it for anybody, but there's a quest line where you either choose to give this captain the poison, or you let her, or to give her the antidote, or let her die. I've always let her die, and I told him, like, well, I've always let her die, and there doesn't seem to be any repercussions or any recognition that she's now dead later on in the game. And he was like, well, you see, if you let her live, she shows up as an accomplice later on. She actually helps you out. And I was like, wait a minute, are you serious? So now I'm intrigued to actually go through and see if those subtle changes do appear, but then brings the question, are they too subtle? Because I never noticed them. Did anybody else notice something like that?
Well, I kind of knew something like that would be the case, being an Elder Scrolls game player, but I think what people are worried about is, okay, if I'm going to make a decision and it's going to affect the rest of my gameplay, am I going to be losing out on some experience? You know what I'm saying? Is there going to be a quest that I'm not going to get now that everybody else is going to get, and they're going to get more XP than me? I think people, unfortunately, look at it like that, whereas as I look at it, is like, hell yeah, make it freaking affect my gameplay. I think that's great. But...
well, that's just I'm going to say spoilers right now. Spoilers. If you want, mute it for a sec. End of the Mages Guild skill line. Quest story. On my first character, I chose to save because I was like, okay, I'm sure that they won't screw you over and stuff if you choose to save the person. I got screwed. So because I chose to save her, and it's one of those decisions.
2 skill points.
Yes, and it's one of those things that there are those decisions that are in there. And then there was also what you were asking about earlier, Gabrok. I have noticed it a couple times, but I will agree with you. It's a bit like if I hadn't actually been like deeply looking for it, it's a bit too subtle. Like, because I have noticed it like once or twice throughout the entire game where somebody reappears, but it's very subtle. Like, oh, this person's here now, and it's a very slight difference in interaction. Because I did check the difference in the interactions between them, and the interaction was just slightly different between the two.
Like, yeah, like, unless it's a primary character, I think the change or the appearance of these other characters is very subtle. I mean, you know when you encounter Darian Gautier again. Like you know when you see him because he stands out. He's probably one of the best characters in the game.
I love that guy.
Except for he's dead. I haven't seen a body, so I'm the kind of person that if I don't see a body, I know he's not dead. But let's kind of go back on topic a little bit. We kind of got sidetracked with Anglar and his filthy casualness. So in 1.5, forward camps got removed with no acknowledgement or hints that this was going to happen. This was oh, by the way, here's patch 1.52, and there's no more forward camps. Actually, they didn't even say that. They worded it.
Yeah, I love how they worded it.
They worded it in a way that said, you can no longer buy forward camps in Cyrodiil.
Right, and you're like, brain's processing that. You're like, wait a minute, they just removed them from the game? What?
Well, that's
but
the
a
thing.
lot of people didn't click into that.
Yeah, I had people ask me all the time, like, what does that mean? Where else can we buy forward camps? I'm like, you can't. They're like,
Nope.
but wait, what? I'm like, they're gone. They're like, no, but actually I have to disagree with you, Garuk. Some people did get forward notice, and it's caused havoc. The entire European side had forewarning of it because they saw patch notes from our side, and apparently the entire European side went nuts and buying forward camps.
True. I mean, they did have preemptive warning. I could just imagine what's going on over the EU side. Just be like, oh, look what happened over on the Americans. Let's all buy these forward camps and then sell them for 500,000 gold.
Well, that's the thing. Like I was actually saying when this happened on Monday, was one of the things that you will see most likely going on is there's going to be people that are going to hoard these forward camps for at least a month or so, and then in the middle of this big battle, it's like, all right, where it's going to it's a one forward camp could change the tide of this keep, and someone goes, 500k for I'll sit down forward camp. Somebody try to make 500k.
Yeah, I know. I can see it coming through.
Yeah.
So, excluding the trolls that are going to try to exploit this for gold, what do you guys think about the change overall? Do you think this is a positive change? Do you think it's a change that's going to dramatically impact the way people play Cyrodiil, or do you think it's just going to kill Cyrodiil?
Yes.
Yes, what? There was like 4 questions there.
I think it's going
yes
to
to
be
all.
a great positive change for PvP. You already, like, I left on, was gone like on Tuesday, and I just got back the other day, but I've already, on Monday, I've seen some of the changes, and from what I've talked with other people that I know that PvP, I've already heard a lot of changes where, like, for the forward camps going down, like, you actually have people using them more sparingly, they're using them more tactical. The tactics of PvP has changed where people aren't just throwing their bodies at a keep. They're like, okay, we need to make sure to be able to res people. And I also heard the new, as I was kind of figuring, new builds are coming up into play where you're seeing a lot more ranged and tank builds where survivability is more of a key instead of just being able to throw as much as you can at a wall and hope that you succeed. You have to actually play smarter. And I was just going to say it was hilarious. One time when I was in there before I left, someone put up a forward camp and they started actually getting yelled at. Why the hell are you wasting a forward camp?
Yeah. Issue that I saw immediately after that patch went live, I wanted to jump into Cyrodiil and just kind of look around and basically mostly I wanted to watch chat to see all of the whining and complaining, which was immense. But a lot of people are saying, oh yeah, you know, now you're gonna have to start using tactics, and everybody's like screaming like, what tactics are you talking about? And it just, Cyrodiil seemed dead for a while because everybody was so confused at what to do, which made me laugh hysterically.
Oh yeah, I mean, right now, well, prior to patch 1.5, players had the whole aspect of, well, okay, well, I'm going to use a typical DC scenario. If you're outside Chalman, you're either fighting at the mine or you're fighting at the gate. And there's either a forward camp on the other side of the gate, or there's one inside the mine, or inside the mine, or it's inside Chalman Keep. And players had the mindset of, I'm just going to run in and see how many people I can kill. If I die, I die. I res here, and that's it.
Yep.
That's now gone. I mean, players, there's going to be those stupid players that are like, oh, I'm just going to see how many people I can kill, because they're idiots. But now it comes to a bit of a tactic situation. You have to be, okay, if I die here, I'm getting ported 4 keeps away. Is it worth the run? No. So let's take my group and try to either flank them or cut off their support line so you can take this keep or take out this group. And I think one of the biggest aspects of this is gank groups are now viable. Yep. I mean, you can cut off forward chains with a group.
Gank groups and 50-50 sieges are really going to come into play where you attack a keep before they know you're there. You have a huge advantage now because someone can't just, one person walk up and set down a forward camp and everyone just blood port to that keep. They have to actually physically run there, and you can also bait people now much more easier where you can go and attack with a couple people, burst the keep. They bring their entire force down there going, oh crap, they're coming here to take the keep. And then they get there and like, fuck, they're not here. Crap, now we have to try to get out of here and stuff. We can't just blood port away. And then the same with, like you're saying, the gank groups. What ends up happening... but anyways, the gank groups, like you're saying, is one of the things I first thought of when with elimination of forward camps is with people not be saying on forward camps constantly, you're going to see in between the 2 keeps, these gank groups are going to actually be, you're going to want a gank group backing up your siege or backing up your defense because it's going to help with attacking of with the defense of every keep where they can cut off the supplies, where instead of beforehand, if there was a gank group, you were actually at times helping the enemy because they would just blood port to the forward camp. It's like, all right, I got there quicker.
Well, the way I see it is you really need to start engaging more into with your community and your alliance to strategize. Because yes, not everybody likes huge, big battles or engaging in, because, you know, maybe you have not a great computer and that really lags your stuff down, or you're just one of those types, rogue types that you just like sneaking around and you're in a gank group. So maybe form yourself a small little gank group, yeah. But be in communication with those groups that are doing the big battles and say, hey, where are you guys at? We're a small little group. What can we do to help you? That's what I'd like to see promoted. But, that's my wish list, I guess.
Well, those smaller groups are the ones that should be cutting off the support lines. I mean, if you know where the enemy forces is going to be rezzing and running back, 9 times out of 10, people just res there and start running back by themselves. They don't wait for a group, and that's when you just start picking people off.
Yeah.
But one of the things I've noticed, and I don't know if you guys agree with me, but Daggerfall is probably one of the most underpopulated factions in this game.
Really?
Do you guys agree? I'm guessing yes.
It's part of the fun and the challenge in PvP. And except for when AD decides to go, hey, look, we get the most people. We're just going to overwhelm the entire board. It's like, well, no, that's not PvP. That's just overwhelming.
Well, it's like you said, man. It's a challenge. It creates a challenge.
It is a challenge.
So, if you're up for that challenge, good. I think that's what you're going to enjoy about it. But if you're one of those people like, man, I'm always constantly getting rolled over, screw PvP, I'm not going to go in there in Cyrodiil, I'm always getting rolled, and we never win anything. Well, I bet you win most of your buff campaign. Go hang out in there for a while. You know what I'm saying?
All right, so you brought up the term challenge. And in PvP, sure, it might be a challenge being the underdogs. But what about when it comes to PvE? Now, the LFG tool has been in this game since launch. I mean, it's something everyone should know about. Looking for a group, you want to go to a dungeon, put yourself in queue, and find yourself a group. But when you're playing in an underpopulated server, it's not a challenge anymore. It's you banging your head on the wall going, why am I not in a group? Why am I not in a group? Or why don't I have more friends? Here's my question to you. And should the LFG tool be cross-faction to help alleviate this underdog issue that Daggerfall seems to have?
I don't know, man. You're delving into that whole World of Warcraft fix that they tried to do for low pop server thing. So,
that was actually stuff they combined. It essentially was server merges, not called server merges. That was the World of Warcraft fix. What he's talking about is actually it has a very precarious position as well, because I understand the concept behind it, but then also it could backfire and okay, we end up going, okay, DC ends up getting keeps on groups with these guys from EP. They're like, well, why don't you just switch to EP? And it pulls, like right now, it's actually part of the thing with PvP is we're the underdog. And a lot of PvPers are going, well, I want to win at times, so they just keep on filtering out to the other factions. It could cause the thing again with, it could work, but it could also pull the other way where a lot more DC end up going, well, I'm going to switch to a different EP, or I'm going to switch to AD because they have more people, so I can do more PvE. But it's a good concept, but I would want to see like how it would work for implementation.
I don't know. I think you're trying to push an MMO system mechanic on a game that I personally think there's a high percentage of solo players. And that's kind of the way I look at it. I mean, I've got delves out in I can go solo. And I understand if you want that particular carrot and you want that dungeon stuff and you want that raid stuff, yeah, you're going to have to group. I get it. And personally, I think that's where the cohesiveness of a solid guild comes into play, and you kind of help each other out. But when you bring in a mechanic, an MMO mechanic like the LFG into a game, you're giving other people who will want to use it an opportunity to use it. But I really think this game is really geared towards more solo players. I mean,
now you say that, and that's
me I'm wrong.
It's a great point, and I agree. This game is kind of geared more towards solo play, but now that dungeons are scalable, and like I said, DC being an underpopulated realm, you're putting, if you want to go do, say, the Undaunted Pledge, the Veteran Undaunted Pledge, if you want to do that, you don't have friends on that want to do it, or a guild that's able to do it at the time. You jump into this LFG queue, and I've waited 3 hours and I just gave up. I was like, no, I'm done. I have nothing else to do. I spent 3 hours waiting for this group. As a casual player and as a solo player, would it not be beneficial for it to be cross-faction strictly for the LFG tool, strictly to do vet dungeons, where when us as the underdogs, underpopulated realm, can queue up and get these groups a lot faster than if we were in DC or in AD or EP.
But it comes again back, I would say, to what kind of Angmar was saying. It's about the community when doing these things, because, like, as me personally, a lot of times when I was playing World of Warcraft with Looking for Group, one of the things I used to love, I don't know why they got rid of this, was the original Looking for Group system was actually like a trade chat that you would put like specifications in, I'm looking for a raid or something, and then you would see this chat constantly, like a trade chat that was worldwide for Looking for the Group, and you could see and interact with different people in there and do that. Which would be awesome if they could implement something like that in here, where if you're looking for a group, all of a sudden anybody else is looking for a group in the entire DC faction, you can start talking with them and go, hey, we're actually looking for this, we're looking for one more. Because that's one of the things is, I will admit, just like you, Garek, I wouldn't sit in 3 hours in a queue. I would actually, at that point, I would go out to an area around the levels of the things, like go out to Craiglore and be like, hey guys, I'm looking for a group for this, anybody up for it? I would actually go and seek and engage the community. That's out there.
I've done that. Trust me, I've done that. But you remember, DC is an underpopulated realm. I log in. There's like 4 people maybe at the Undaunted place, and they're just grabbing like the lower level stuff. It is incredibly hard to get a dungeon group going on DC, or at least on the campaign that I'm locked into. I don't know if I'm the only one, but I'm struggling.
Well, I mean, so to answer your first question, I do agree that making it cross-faction would definitely alleviate the situation of long queues. But I think what we're missing here, and nobody's really kind of touched on, is that when this game launched, the whole grouping mechanic as a whole sucked. It just didn't work. So people got used to not grouping with other people because it didn't work. So
yeah.
Then the
I haven't touched
LFG
the group tool for that.
Right. So nobody even wanted to go near the LFG because they knew grouping as a whole, you're either going to be phased out, we're on different quests, we're on different versions of the quest. It just didn't work. So people got used to not using it. That was number one. So, okay, we fixed the LFG, guys. Let's go ahead and use it. Well, now you have people that are just kind of jumpy and they don't know if this group mechanic is really going to work that well. And they just got so used to ignoring the LFG and they don't even want to, because you have to go in the LFG and queue yourself and set yourself out. Are you going to be healer, tank, or damage? And if you're just not used to doing that or don't even want to go near it, or maybe you don't even read the forums, you don't even know that it's been fixed or semi-fixed. I mean, I think that's just, people got so used to just grouping as a whole not working in this game that they just went out and I'm going to solo the content. Screw it, you know?
All right, if anybody can solo the veteran pledges, let me know so I know how to do it. That would be fantastic.
DK tank, most likely.
All right, so the biggest thing you guys keep mentioning is community. The game is community driven, and I think to some aspects it kind of is. Even though it feels like a solo game, they do put in.
Where the fuck?
Did you just go through the podcast? I don't know what I was talking about. Oh, community.
Blame Duda for that, guys.
Yeah, we're gonna blame Duda for that, for playing over planes. One of the aspects to this game, like you said, is the core of the community, getting people involved in doing things together. Even though some aspects, like the LG, feels like they failed on. One of the community-driven topics on the forums right now, and I say community like 8 times there, is a very interesting one, and one that I think could really do a lot for this game in terms of getting people together and getting your name out there. And when housing comes, I think it would be a really cool thing. So someone on the forums, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, made the post asking, if we have fishing, why can't we have painting? So it's an aspect of the game where players can go in and just do paintings and sell them on some sort of art mechanic or art trade UI or whatever. And it really intrigued me because there's not a game out there that really has players out there creating decals or decorations for the game within the game. And it really impressed me that somebody would want to do this. Now, of course, in the back of my head, I'm thinking, okay, how many people are going to draw phallic symbols? Like, how many people are going to do that? Like, honestly, like, that's the first thing that came to me. Like, well, if you give people the option to draw things, yeah. Of course that's what's going to come out. But I'm really curious to what you guys said. I linked you guys the post, and I'm kind of hoping you both read it. I would really like to know what you guys think. Like, do you guys like this concept of being able to create in-game items via the game?
So I did read the post, and to set it up for those that have no idea of where this even came from, throughout the Tamriel, there's these little painting easels. You can't interact with them or nothing like that. It's just it's flavor. It's just decor, right? So the original poster's concept was, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we could interact with this easel and then like a picture would come up and we could sit there, I guess, with your mouse, I'm assuming, and like a palette and pick colors and just make paintings. And the concept was, so I'm going to make it and work it like a skill, like a crafting skill. Okay, I'm gonna try and paint something really neat, but it's gonna look like a 3-year-old child did it because my crafting skill is so low, right? And then you take these paintings and you try and sell them to a vendor, and the vendor's gonna be like, he's either going to, based upon your skill, number one, and how it looks, number two, is going to based upon how much gold he's going to give you, if any, or copper, I guess would be the case. And then you would rank up that skill, and it's a neat concept. It's creative that the person came up with it. And of course, they did say, yeah, you could save these, and for eventually down the road, if housing came into play, then you could hang them on a wall, I guess. I don't know.
This is when I was 3 years old.
Right. And one of the funny comments that I saw, one of the comments on the post was, yeah, then we could have like a morphing skill, and I want to morph it into Van Goghism. Or morph it into cubism or something like that. I was just kind of laughing. But would I do it? No. Even as I guess it's kind of a neat concept. But fishing, because they compared it to fishing, right? They said, okay, if we have fishing in the game, why couldn't we have something like painting in the game? Well, excluding this game, fishing usually in other MMOs has a purpose. For either cooking or provisioning or something.
Eventually, I think it's the next patch, fishing will actually start to have a purpose in this game when they do the provisioning revamp. Otherwise, right now, yes, fishing's like, where's the fishes? Why do I have them?
I knew you were just waiting for that. But no, you're right. I mean, they put fishing in the game because, MMO players are used to having their fishing, and I'm sure they had plans for it in the future. We're going to make this work and have something of it. Now I just give you neat little trophies that you can't do anything with. But the painting concept, I think, it's a great creative concept, but I would probably mess around with it and try it, but I'm not going to waste my precious skill points in it. Hell no.
Well, when I read it, I mean, his concept of using skill points and stuff like that really didn't work for me. I figured it more as someone who actually has artistic skill would be doing that as a pastime and submitting it and trying to sell it for in-game gold. I mean, I don't know how you can turn that into. Like, I can't draw stickmen, so I mean, if I was to do this as a trade skill, stickman, look at his phallic symbol.
Just make the TARDIS. Make the TARDIS again.
Like it's just, I don't know how you would do that as a trade skill, but as if I was an artist and I knew how to do it, it'd be really cool if I can go up and say, you know what, I'm going to interact with that easel. I'm going to draw. Oh, look at that happy little bush.
Well, I like Ingmar was saying, the concept of it is really interesting and unique. Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen an MMO that has actually had painting in the game, but if anything, I would tie it to the guild housing, because if you're trying to sell it to like another player, like some type of drawing, it would be like, before like guild housing, there's really not too much point of it. It's like, what are you gonna do if it pull it out of your bag every once in a while and just go, okay, let's go back.
I mean, if you really want to get into time-wasting concepts, why don't we have, like, right next to all of the stables, right on the side there, you could put like a horseshoe pit, And you could like have competitions with other people, and then like
That'd
make
be kinda
your
cool.
own little UI of like I've got a right release right there. You know, I mean,
Yeah, that would be kind of
we
cool.
could go
Actually,
on,
I would
we
be
could go on for
that.
days of interactive stuff that just time wasters that you could. Just
Well,
I'm surprised you didn't bring up the thing that you've brought up multiple times already before, Ingmar. Your music.
Oh, dude, don't even get me started. I could. Go
I
on
know
for
you
days
want your
about
music
that.
in this game.
I'm telling you, Locho really nailed it on the music system. I'm just saying.
Since we're on the topic of time wasting ideas, I just had this really cool idea. Since with the whole painting aspect and things like that, why can't they make a system where I can make a treasure map, put some cool piece of treasure out there, and do a scavenger hunt with a bunch of people? Be like, here you go, go
Hey.
find it.
Guild events. Calling
That
it.
would be awesome, though, wouldn't it?
Totally.
Spider on my light. Totally
Yeah,
off
it would.
topic. But I think that would be cool. I mean, anything to get more guild events out there. And I mean, it's really hard to do guild events in this game that aren't game driven, such as like trials and stuff like that. You can, like, I hate to bring up another game, but in like World of Warcraft, we used to do naked gnome runs from Ironforge to Stormwind. Whoever made it first wins, and you had to take a level 1 gnome completely naked and book it through these like level 50 areas. It was fun. You can't really do that in Elder Scrolls Online. I mean, you kind of can. I mean, you could run from one end of Glen Armor to the other end, but it doesn't have the same impact.
No.
Well, I would actually like to disagree with you on that point, Carbrock. Was it? I think it was last week, the week before I left to go to BlizzCon. We were actually, I think we took about 10, maybe 12 of us that were all around like level 7, and we went to Cold Harbor and started doing sky shards and world bosses. It was really difficult, but really fun. Like, we're all just like,
But that's
think
game
it's funny
driven.
yeah, I guess it is game driven.
Like that's
But
actually
we're-
doing something specifically in the game, and that like world bosses are designed to be done as a group. I mean,
Yeah.
Naked Gnome runs isn't a World of Warcraft mechanic.
Yeah, you sure? Moonguard.
But that's the kind of thing I would like to see more. Like I would like to see the ability to do a card game in or some form of gambling in Elder Scrolls Online. Just side things that can really waste our time. And I like time wasters. I'm all for time wasters.
Well, it keeps the person inside the game. So, like, if they're wasting time just doing these little side things, they're inside the game. And if their friends come on and go, hey, I want to do this, that person's still on. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm done with this. I'll go do that. It keeps the people active inside the game so that the community is still kind of being driven. And they're there for more interactions.
Mm-hmm.
Music system.
If you guys don't have anything else to discuss on what has happened in the last week, including patch 1.5 and all the awesomeness and fails that have come from it, I think we have discussed patch 1.5 into the ground with this episode and the previous episode and the previous episode. So hopefully,
Let's put a nail in this coffin.
yeah. So hopefully this week, ZeniMax will release like, hey, look what's coming in patch
The road ahead.
1.6. Speaking of which, next week we're going to talk about the really awesome Dwemer pet thing that you're gonna get.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
From the picture, it looked like it was almost the same size as actual drummer sphere. I'm like, no, that thing actually would be kind of cool.
The same
It
size
is.
as an actual Dwemer sphere. Have you seen an actual Dwemer sphere?
Yes, I have one around the corner. He's just like,
We're gonna go to Angwar first for his shameless plugs. So Angwar, what do you have for shameless this week? Do you have anything to shamelessly plug yourself?
Shamelessly plug myself. You know,
Yeah.
that just I'm not even gonna touch that.
Oh, you know you want to touch it.
You guys can follow me at Ingwar Forever on Twitter and Twitch. That's about my only shameless plug. Definitely gonna try and I'm really hoping they fix these stuff, man. This is driving me crazy. I want to click my bed.
See, I'm so glad I'm not an alt person. This game does not drive alts for me, so I've hit that level. I'm capped. I don't have to worry about all this stuff that you have to worry about. So glad. Alts just do not intrigue me. Especially in a game where I can be everything. Why do I need an alt? Like, this game is not alt friendly by any means. So what
Another
about
class
you,
skills
Lou? Do
manager.
you have any shamelessness this week?
Aren't I always shameless?
Oh
Yeah. I'm Lumi the Lock, GM for Game Record Nation and Elder Scrolls Online. You can follow me on Twitter at Lumi the Lock, or hit me up in game at Lumi the Lock. So we'll probably be getting back in this BVP next week. I'm still gonna be pretty busy this week, but if you ever need to get hold of me, just hit me up on my Twitter, and I'll usually am checking that throughout the day, and I can respond there. And for shamelessness, socials.
So this will be the last episode Limited Lock will be on. I am Garbrak. You can follow me on Twitter at Garbrak. You can follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Garbrak. You can support this podcast by heading on over to gamebreaker.tv/deals and get yourself a discount code because retail price sucks. But that is it for this week's episode of Tamriel Unchained. We will be here next week discussing, hopefully some awesome patch 1.6 information.
Hopefully.
And we may have a surprise guest, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe we're still working on that, so maybe we'll have some awesomeness for that as well. You can catch us live on twitch.tv/GameBreakerTV every Wednesday night at 10:30 Eastern Time.
Ish.
It is a Game Breaker show.
Ish. Express-ish.
If you are watching or listening to this on iTunes or YouTube, give us a thumbs up, give us a like, and leave a comment so we know what we can do better or what you really love about the show. So as always, guys, thank you for coming out and listening. We really appreciate it. We'll see you next time.